Hello, my name is Jake Woodhave, and I work for Sandy City as the software project manager as well as the Cityworks admin. Today, we're going to discuss why we chose both Cityworks and UtiliSync to help us with our asset management. But before we get started, let me give you a little background about the city. Sandy City is the sixth largest city in the state of Utah. Population ranges around 100,000 people with a median age of 36 years old. Our staff can reach upwards of 800 total employees, with 627 of those being FTEs. And our service territory covers 22 square miles. So, why CityWorks? In 2018, we had a new administration come to office who was hyper focused on technology and using technology to help increase efficiency. Through their search, they quickly came to realize that our public utilities department had been using a software called CityWorks for the previous 15 years to help manage their assets. Well, we knew that they could do the asset management really well. What we were unsure of was the PLL side. So they continued to do their due diligence to make sure that they were able to meet the requirements necessary for our PLL side. As they continued to dig a little deeper, they realized that CityWorks would not only help them increase efficiencies, it was all in one platform. It would increase the communication effectiveness between the different departments, and it was GIS focused. Essentially, CityWorks was checking all the boxes that our administration team had identified as important to us. So the next question I usually get is, why did we choose UtiliSync? Again, this goes back to our public utilities department. They needed more from CityWorks than what CityWorks was able to offer at the time. They needed to be able to generate PDF reports and directly email those to either the contractor or the homeowner while they were in the field. As we've implemented CityWorks throughout the city, we found that the fire department needed a lot of the similar things that public utilities did in the business inspection. They needed something that was not only simple, but it could capture a signature while they were in the field, and they could directly email the business owners a copy of the PDF report that they've completed with that business inspection. So, as you may have concluded from the previous slides, some of the benefits of UtiliSync include the smart forms and the conditional formatting associated with those smart forms, the repeating sections or groups within those forms, the ability to update the GIS services and the related tables directly from the UtiliSync platform, the ability to create that PDF document directly from the actual form and email it to a specific recipient once it's been completed. The ease of use. I mean, that right there alone is what had my fire department or my firefighters sold on the UtiliSync software, was how easy it was for them to use. The tablet friendliness of the actual software and the ability for it to sync directly with CityWorks. If this wasn't able to sync with CityWorks on its own, it's an amazing platform. You can create everything outside of a GIS database and keep all that information isolated from the GIS database or CityWorks. But the ability for this to seem, to sync with CityWorks is just put it over the top for us. For us, the use cases include our stormwater group, which uses it for post construction inspections as well as SWIP inspections. Our fire department is using it for fire hydrant inspections, building inspections, fireworks stands, and food trucks. I'll go ahead and show you some of those inspections later on in the presentation. As a city, we're required to inspect these long term post construction inspections once every 5 years. The homeowner can do them every 2 years, and they're actually sent reminders 3 months before they're due, 1 month before they're due, 1 week, and then when they're actually past due. If the homeowner completes the inspection, they're able to send it into Sandy City, and we're able to mark that task as complete, where it refreshes and it goes back to that cycle again. UtiliSync has made this process so simple and easy for us to keep track of that, to be honest with you, it makes it a lot easier if we have turnover or if we get busy doing something else, that we have these constant reminders, 5 years out, instead of trying to look at our calendar in 2026 to figure out what inspections I need to do. Now I'm going to switch over to the UtiliSync platform and give you a little demo of how we keep track or how we input these post construction inspections into the system. Now, as you can see here, this is the view that the employee sees from the field, whether they're on a computer or on a tablet. It gives them a map that they're looking at from an overhead view, and they're simply able to come over here, click on the post construction, and then place a marker point on the map where this post construction inspection is going to be completed. Once they've put the marker on the map, they simply click on that point, select the inspection from the form drop down list over here, and click the plus button to begin the inspection process. Now, as you can see in this form, this is what I was talking about before, where we can actually put the email address of the recipient of this inspection into the inspection so that it can email a PDF copy to them once it has been submitted. And if we were to close this form here, any tasks associated with that point would be highlighted here in the tasks section, and we could go in there and go ahead and start that task. But since there are no tasks created for this point, we'd simply create a task, come over here to the notifications template that we want to use for this post construction, select when we want these notifications to go out, use the post construction template that we've already set up in the system, and then go ahead and save that information. Once you've set the timeline as to when those tasks are going to be completed, come back over here to the task information, select the form that you want to use, who it's going to be assigned to, the date due, what the status is on it, put a little bit of a description in here, and then go ahead and select the notification template that we set up earlier. And now we have a task set up on this actual asset going forward. So now that the resident and the city is going to get those reminders that we spoke about earlier. Now, for our fire department, the fire hydrant inspections was kind of our use case, our proof of concept that we could actually use it and have it be successful in the fire department. So, according to the local state ordinances, we're required to inspect these hydrants at least once a year. Being in Utah, we actually inspect them semi annually, but the secondary inspection is just a visual inspection. We actually flow it once during the summer, and then in the winter, we do a drive by where we inspect it visually. We use UtiliSync to help overlay the maps and color code the points so that the firefighters can easily identify a hydrant that still needs to be inspected versus one that's already in service and in compliance. So let me go ahead and show you exactly what we're doing in UtiliSync with our fire hydrant inspection. As you can see here, our hydrant inspections are very similar to what you just saw with the post construction. The only difference is this is all fed off of our GIS database. So all the symbology and everything is actually updated and held in the GIS database. So if you click on the hydrant here, being in red, it means it hasn't been inspected yet. You can come over here and you can view any information that's stored in the GIS database that might be important to the actual people in the field. All this information is editable. So if we wanted to update the GIS database over here, we could do that as well. We also have the rights restricting specific users from being able to edit that information or not out in the field. So once we have our hydrant selected here, again, we go select our form that we're going to use, create. The hydrant form will pull up. They'll come through here. Just select the information, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this, and they can add any photos or comments that they want to see on the submission. Go ahead and submit this for final review. And then UtiliSync uses the UtiliBots to go through each of these tasks and complete them. They'll be completed, and once they're completed, you'll see a green check mark next to the task. As you can see, all of the UtiliBots have completed their task, and now we can go back to the system here, refresh the page. And now you can see that hydrant that we completed the inspection on has turned green. So if I didn't want that hydrant to actually go to an in-service status, then I would come back here to my GIS fields and just change that status back to needs inspection. Now, the beautiful thing about this is all the information is stored up here in the log activity. So if we need to go view a report or something, we'd simply come up here to the log, see what happened on the inspection, and then we could go through and view it here. We could also download it as a PDF and either email it to ourselves or to somebody else that needs a copy of the PDF. You can also use this same log to go ahead and see whether or not the utilibots actually completed their task. So any information that we've done here in UtiliSync can be found in UtiliSync. We don't actually have to go into Cityworks to review what we just did. Now, if we wanted to go ahead and view just any documents that were associated with this task, we come here to the document section, click on the document viewer, and you can see here the fire hydrant annual inspection document is saved or associated with this actual hydrant. So on to our next section that we're using UtiliSync for is the business inspection. And this is the most recent addition that we have to the UtiliSync platform. We're required to inspect these businesses either annually or on an 18-month process. UtiliSync has helped us simplify the inspection process as well as generate reminders and allow the inspectors to update the database on the site, like what you saw there with the hydrants. The other nice thing is we're required to inspect all food trucks that come do events within the city. And instead of having them tied to a specific asset in the GIS database, we're actually just placing a point on the map, like what you saw with the post construction data, and using that point to keep a historical record of the food truck inspection. Now, as you can see here, our business inspections are set up very similar to the way we set up our fire hydrants in Utility. We had a lot of positive feedback and success with the way we had set up the hydrants that we wanted to continue to build on that with the business inspections. All the businesses are geolocated in our GIS database, and anything that needs inspection is highlighted with a red dot. You can also see some of the customized symbology over here that we could use on the map or that we plan on using on the map later on in the business inspection process. This will help the firefighters quickly identify what they're actually inspecting. So once they've selected the asset they're going to inspect, again, simply come in here, select the form they want to use, click the plus button, and that brings up the inspection form. This information is very important to us, and we tried to keep that up to date as much as possible. We've given some of our firefighters the ability to go ahead and update this information in the field. We can go ahead and determine how we want to set up those permissions so that we're not getting any erroneous data or that the data that we do have is not getting deleted by accident. Once the firefighters have input or verified all that information, they simply put in the email for the person that they are going to email the completed inspection form to at the business, and then come through here and select all the items that didn't pass on this business inspection. Once they've gone through all the different categories here, simply coming down to the notes and the status section will change the symbology from red or to the other color, whether it passes, fails, in compliance, is referred to the fire marshal. Once they've completed the status, they'll simply use the signature pad here, add any photos that they may need to add, and submit the final. So what's next for us as a city? As you've seen here, Cityworks and UtiliSync work very well together. Their partnership breeds success. I know from my experience here that if we didn't have UtiliSync, it would have been a lot more difficult for us to adopt some of the inspections that we wanted to put into the CityWorks system that we actually have in the system. So for us, I think we'll continue to venture down the path with fire and potentially put their PPE inspections into the system as well. I know there are potentially some other use cases in other departments that we might be able to take advantage of. But what I've really learned from this experience or this implementation is simplicity is key. Our firefighters were quick to point it out that it needed to be as simple as possible because they don't have all the time in the world to go out and do these inspections. So they need to get through them as quickly as possible. And I think with Cityworks and UtiliSync, we're able to accomplish those goals and meet those needs. My name is Jake Woodhave. I'm the software project manager and Cityworks admin for Sandy City. Here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. If you want to find out what we've actually done on other projects in the past or what we're doing going forward, please email me, give me a phone call, and I'm more than happy to answer those whenever I'm available. Thank you.